there's such an opportunity for college kids to find their tribe.
Yes.
If high school wasn't a pleasant, time in your life, college has a better chance of being a pleasant time. Because if you were the nerdy kid who just wanted to play board games, I promise you on your college campus, there's like a billion other nerdy kids who just want to play board games.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can go find your people there.
I totally agree with that. And I think that with college, it's different from high school because high school is such a microcosm. You can never escape it. If you hate somebody and they hate you, you have to see them every day.
Yep.
But in college, it's not really like that. If you don't want to see somebody, you pretty much don't have to see them again.
Right. Now, these strategies that we're going to talk about in this session not only help prevent the onset of depression, anxiety, but also help manage it if you find yourself in those states. What are some of your favorite self-help strategies?
Well, I sort of have like 5 that kind of come together in a package.
Great.
And they're all, when you talk about them, they just seem like duh. Like they aren't so kind of groundbreaking, but it's really about making sure that you have priority towards them all. And so first thing is good sleep. Sleep is huge, and people don't realize that the effect it can have on your mood, on your problem solving, on your ability to manage problems as they come up. So get good sleep. And
How many
hard.
hours do you sleep?
Well, I think I sleep very little. I sleep between 5.5 to 6.5 on most days.
And then you're ready when you wake up.
Yeah, and I think everybody has their own sort of right amount of sleep. And how I found mine was obviously experience and also not setting an alarm and seeing when I naturally wake up. And I naturally wake up after 5.5 to 6.5 hours.
Okay, if I did not set an alarm, I would sleep 15 hours.
Really?
Oh yeah, I slept 33 hours
I
2 weeks
you
ago.
told me this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't experiment unless I quit my job and dedicate my life to that.
That's
so
funny.
I appreciate those who can get away with 5.5 to 6 hours. I am incredibly jealous. But to your point, I do make sure that I get enough sleep.
Yes, and everybody's enough sleep is different. And I think it's really about practicing good sleep hygiene, which is very hard for a college student.
Yeah.
Because, you're up at all hours of the night. One day you're sleeping from 3 a.m. until noon,
Right.
and the next day you're going to bed at 9 p.m. Who knows? But it's important to try to have some semblance of consistency. And it's okay if your weekend schedule is slightly different. But in general, you want to make sure that, obviously you have enough time to get the sleep that you need, and that in general you try to go to sleep, at least go and lay down around the same time, and that you're not using too many electronics or the distracting things maybe half an hour to an hour before you start to like wind down and go to sleep. And so that's important because it has so much to do with our emotional regulation. The second thing is exercise. People don't realize that it's free good hormones, guys. It's like free feel-good hormones, endorphins. I have never heard from somebody, even if they had to struggle getting into the gym or starting to walk or run, that afterwards they regretted it.
You are right about that.
I have not heard about that.
Everyone leaves the gym going, I'm glad I did that.
Yep.
Yes.
Even if it was so hard for you to do it.
Because everyone knows I do not like. Are you okay? So when you wake up at 5 in the morning, do you go run?
Not at 5.
Oh.
No, I like to take my time. I wake up at 5. I like slowly get up.
But then you
have
go
my
run?
Coffee. Yeah, I go running maybe like an hour and a half after I wake up. So like 6:37.
Every
I'll go
day you
running.
do that?
I run almost every day. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are really like this. Just like how I picture my life wanting to be. That's how you live.
You know what though? I think it's almost like when you know too much, you have to. Like once I know,
you know
all
it's
the
good for you?
research,
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't like, and I know how I'm gonna feel after. Like, okay, this morning, for example, I almost didn't go on a run because I ran the last 14 days. I actually haven't taken a break, and I was like, I'm tired. I have like an early. I got gotta be somewhere at 9. Gotta leave my house at 8. I was like,
Yeah.
And then around 7, I went again and I said, you know what, even if it's a short run, just do it, because I already picture myself afterwards wishing I did it, knowing that it would be good for me if I did it, knowing that I felt tired this morning and that actually running would fix it.
And then you did it.
And then I did it and I feel better.
And you liked it.
I liked it. Yeah, I don't regret it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you
not.
definitely wouldn't regret it.
No,
I get that.
Nobody regrets it.
Right.
And exercise can really help to manage your mood.
Right.
That's
okay.
a really big, really important thing most people don't realize.
Dr. Romney convinced me I need to be more empathetic, so I've been working on that. But after that's done, after I feel like I'm in a good place with my empathy, I'm going to start trying to do the sleeping, the drinking water, the exercising.
Exactly. Yeah, and that brings up the next one.
Yeah.
The third coping strategy is, eating well, and that includes drinking enough water. People don't realize that they're most of the times dehydrated.
Yep.
So then when they feel tired or off, or maybe sometimes people say that they feel dizzy, sometimes it's dehydration. And also, when you eat generally well, you're gonna feel better.
Absolutely.
You just make better choices. And so again, that's hard for a college student because they just wanna eat burgers and chips and like they're up studying and they get tired and they wanna eat. Try to make as much as possible healthy choices. And actually research shows that if you can make healthy choices 80% of the time, that's enough. So it doesn't mean that every single meal you have to be eating your veggies and you have to never eat fries or a burger. I eat fries, I eat burgers, it's fine. But it's just that, it's kind of like that 20-80 sort of ratio. Try to aim for that and try to make better choices, especially if you're eating late at night, because that can, again, contribute to a lot of fatigue in the next day. So that's a big one. And the next one is social activities. So
they should get that one down easy. College kids got that. Yeah.
Hopefully that they're kind of trying to make new friends. And the best part about college is that almost everybody is in the same scenario. Most people don't know anybody. Everybody's hoping to make new friends. And so it's different from other times in your life where maybe you're moving to a new city when you're 40 and you're like, man, everybody's already settled here and already have their friends. That's hard for me. That's not the case with college. So take advantage of that. There's a lot of groups that you can join, sports teams, fraternities and sororities, other types of clubs. So do that, get into something new, hopefully at least once a week, and check it out. See what's going on campus. There's always a lot of different activities. Go to one new thing every week.
Well, and there's such an opportunity for college kids to find their tribe.
Yes.
If high school wasn't a pleasant time in your life, college has a better chance of being a pleasant time. Because if you were the nerdy kid who just wanted to play board games, I promise you on your college campus, there's like a billion other nerdy kids who just want to play board games.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can go find your people there.
I totally agree with that. And I think that with college, it's different from high school because high school is such a microcosm. You can never escape it. If you hate somebody and they hate you, you have to see them every day.
Yep.
But in college, it's not really like that. If you don't want to see somebody, you pretty much don't have to see them again.
If you like psychology and learning about mental health and want to learn more while meeting other people who are interested, explore your membership options using the link below this video or visit medcircle.com.
Right.
So I think that is really different. And the last thing, aside from all of the things that we've already talked about, is making sure that you still stay on top of your hobbies. I think a lot of times people go to college, like, well, I have so much to do, there's so much responsibility. But hobbies is important. You have to do something that's still enjoyable. I was in college, and when I was in college, I had 3 jobs. I was like trying to get all this work experience and also make money. And sometimes it felt like I don't have time, but I'm so glad that I still made time for my singing, which was a big hobby. And so I joined a singing group on campus, like so nerdy. We were like the nerdy version of Glee, right? But in college, it was an a cappella group.
Yeah.
But
what was the name of your a
tribe.
cappella group?
It was Artists in Resonance. So like resonance, like music.
Yeah. Because it's always a pun.
It's always a pun.
With a cappella groups.
Always a pun.
And I love that.
know.
Yeah.
I loved it. And you know what? It was so good. It was worth the extra time because that's my tribe. In fact, right as I was driving here, I was talking to one of my friends from my a cappella group from when I was in college, and we've been friends for over 2 decades now. And I met him in that group.
Yeah.
And he's one of my best friends.
I get that. I mean, my best friends are from Alpha Kappa Psi.
Yeah.
I mean, my best. The people I talk to today will be from Alpha Kappa Psi.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we spent 3 years with each other.
Right.
Like that was it, and now we're in.
Yeah.
All right, so we have sleep, exercise, diet, social activity, and hobbies.
Yes.
Those are the Dr. Ho 5 right there.
Yes, and prevention and maintenance too. So like even when you're, going through stressors, make sure that those 5 things are still happening.
Yeah.
That's a really big part of you being able to manage those stressors.
Now, what do you find college students doing that they think is a prevention strategy or self-helping strategy, but instead it's actually a coping mechanism or an unhealthy coping mechanism?
I think a lot of times, college students find that like substances are a great way to escape. I mean, that's not just college students, it's almost everybody.
Right, yeah, people.
And I think you have to really check in with why you're doing it. So if you're doing it because you're wanting to have fun with your friends, you're trying to bond, I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily an issue, and that's expected in college. But if you're constantly reaching for a substance of some sort when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling worried about something, when you're generally just not feeling like you like your life and you're trying to run away from your problems, that's when it signals that maybe there's an issue that needs to be looked at.
Yes. And do you find, we didn't talk about this in our first session and we probably should have, do you find that men or women in college are more susceptible to depression and anxiety?
I think in general we know that females have a higher rate of depression. Okay. But I think part of that is because men are not talking about it as much. And also men don't necessarily identify with the same type of symptoms as a woman does. So a lot of times women feel a little bit more comfortable talking about this idea of sadness, right? Like, okay, I'm sad, I don't feel right, feel negative emotions today. Men may not describe it that way, but if you ask them, are you doing the things that you used to enjoy? And do you even enjoy them anymore? Or do you just kind of feel like everything's lackluster and it's not even, there's no point to it? So that sort of symptom of depression that we call anhedonia, losing that interest, that's a big one for men, that when you ask them that question, more of them will say yes, but they might not say yes to the sadness one. And yet that is a key feature of depression.
That is really good for people to know. Yeah, really speaking that language there. And that's true even in my personal experience. I will have a lot more of my female friends call me and explain something that they're going through with sadness or whatnot. And my male friends I can't even remember if the last time
I feel
one of
sad.
them
Yeah, it doesn't really
they
come
said
out.
that. They'd be like, oh, I'm so bummed out recently because but they would never say, I just feel sad. You know, it's just a lot of culture, I think. As a parent, how can I support my son or daughter and make sure they are using healthy coping mechanisms? And this is beyond just saying, how are you?
Right. Well, you've got to walk the walk yourself. I think as parents, even when you think, okay, my kid does not appreciate me right now, they're going through that phase where they don't like their parents very much, just want to hang out with their friends, but they're still watching your behaviors. They're still learning from you. It's a big, important phase where they're kind of looking to adults for guidance, but maybe they're not just talking about it as actively. And you need to walk the walk yourself. If you're going to tell your child, hey, might be a good idea for you to exercise more because I heard that's good for you. And if you're never exercising, they're not going to do it. They'll be like, I'm sorry, you're a hypocrite. And then that'll just start a fight. So I think you need to sort of set up those things for yourself, and so that when you're encouraging your kid to try certain things, you can say, hey, I'm going to try it too, or I have been doing it. You want to be able to actually show them by action that you can put your money where your mouth is. And that's important. So not only the verbal encouragement, but you doing yourself. Again, volunteering that maybe you can go with them to do something. I had talked to a parent recently that decided to take their 2 college children on a wellness retreat. So they kind of a, more new idea lately where like a vacation is actually more something that's based in like exercise and being outdoors and eating right. So they'll go away for a weekend to a nice hotel, but really like the activities instead of sightseeing are things like yoga every day, going on a hike, having a well-balanced meal. Everything's kind of set up through part of the program, and they'll do like meditations. It's kind of interesting. So anyway, the parent took both of her children to do this, and everyone had a really nice time. It was actually kind of like a new idea for a family vacation. So I think even something like that where you can incorporate maybe a family activity, just everybody together, kind of demonstrate that through that and kind of helping them with that lead in. I think that's helpful too.
Yeah. My tidbit for college students in terms of prevention and of course treating depression, anxiety is just be aware, be mindful of the social media use.
Yeah.
I mean, I know ad nauseum we hear it on the media. We even talk about it at MedCircle so much. But the amount of time a college-age person is spending on their phone, on Instagram, on Facebook is insane.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I feel worse after I'm on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can imagine that a lot of people probably feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was talking about social activities, note that I didn't mention anything like, go and like interact with your friends on Facebook, because that is not social activity to me. I don't think that that's true social support, and it's not true social interaction. And we know, based on what you were saying, that, these individuals who spend the majority of their time thinking they're being social on social media, they actually feel sicker. We know these statistics so well now that they actually have heightened depression. They feel worse about themselves. They have more anxiety. They feel kind of sick after they were on social media for a long time. And I think that that is a big challenge for college students to overcome, as they think, okay, well, from the comfort of my own home, I can socialize with people. No, you can't. It's not replacement for real social experience. And in general, people, I see them all the time, you know, they're at a restaurant and they're all just on their phones instead of actually interacting with one another. It's so frustrating.
Okay, put this picture I took is of Oprah Winfrey. Have you heard of her? Maybe, yes, okay. She went to a high school, so these are kids who are hopefully on their way to college, and she, you know, donated some money and did this whole hurrah. But I took the screenshot from this video because literally these high school kids are right here. Oprah Winfrey is right here. That's how far away. And you are on your phone.
Yeah.
I don't even care if you're taking a picture of her.
Yeah.
She's right there. This is your opportunity to live right here in this moment.
Yep.
And you are videotaping it because you want to put it on Instagram.
Yep.
No.
I know.
No.
It's awful.
Like,
Yeah.
take those, I mean, just, and I'm not saying delete Instagram because no one would do that.
Yeah.
I would like that, but just instead, just be mindful how you feel when you're on it, how you feel afterwards, and how much you're opening that app. Because if you went to college to go on Instagram, you just wasted your money.
Right.
Go to college to experience college and learn. You know, not just that. That's my rant. There you go.
I like it. It's a very good example. Very poignant example.